What better way to start a reading of Soundings than the beautiful horn of Steve Gorn? Thank you. Really sweet. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this book launch for Soundings, my first book of poetry to be published. And some of you might, on Cyber World, might be expecting Tristan Shepard to be playing his pedal steel guitar. Unfortunately, the plague got him. So Tristan, wherever you are, we hope you get better soon. And we're here at Greenkill Gallery, and I'm delighted to be sharing this space with some wonderful poets and my friend Steve and David Shell's beautiful space. So I'd like to start with a poem that's about beginnings, and it goes like this. 6-month-old Isabella, swaddled in her father's muscular arms, I'd cradled him when he was a newborn. Now he gazes into his daughter's eyes, lost in the magnificent moment. Where'd she come from, I ask. A sly grin crawls onto his mouth. No, dude, come on, seriously. Where did she come from? What do you mean, he says. I mean, where do stories like this begin? And that's always interesting to me, where we mark our beginnings. Where do we mark our beginnings? Conception? Or when our parents met? Or when the meteor struck Yucatan and life as we know it became possible? Where do we start our story? It's a deep and important question. Anyway, I try to touch it in that. It's been a joy to bring this book to life, and I want to say a big shout out to Cindy Hockman, editor, and the people at the Poetry Box out west who helped me bring it to life, and it's a delight to have. Let me go on. I'm going to read some poems, and then Steve will play, and we got these beautiful guests going to read as well. And this next poem I wrote for my friend Pat, who turned 80 and within 2 weeks learned that she had Parkinson's. And understandably, she was terrified, needing solace, needing a hand to hold. And this was her birthday poem right around that time. It's called All Aboard. The trains keep chugging. I get on yours, you jump on mine. There is no destination listed. Just the track laid out in front of us, disappearing at the next turn or over the next hill. There's no guarantee of a smooth ride, only that we will move along. Some passengers hop on for a short stretch. Some stay on, their heads on our shoulders, resting from all those stories. A marching band stomps down the aisle, then a swashbuckling pirate. 3 girls in yellow sundresses, all come, all go, all come, all go. The world passes by. The train moves on, going who knows where. In circles, to heaven, to nowhere at all. I am there. You are there. Our heads bobbing, wide-eyed to it all, our fingers intertwined. The crowd goes wild. Oh, thank you. I mean, and where do beginnings start? I mean, I was just before the show, before the live stream, I was talking to one person in the audience, Paul, who noticed these beads, which I only wear on special occasions from time to time, and he immediately recognized them as santero beads. My father from Cuba used to wear beads like this, and these are this, it's not the rainbow flag, though fine if it is, but it really is what they call las siete potencias, the 7 powers. And so this next poem is a tribute to my uncle Anibal, who was a santero himself. That means he was a Yoruba priest. And a quick little story about this. My parents were divorced when I was very young, and I didn't have contact with any of my dad's family, so all the stories were gone. And I didn't have contact with my father. But my mother told me this story, that when she was a young mother in Cuba, that they laid me down as an infant on a table, surrounded me with feathers, blankets, beads, smoke, and incantations. And it was my uncle Anibal who performed this ritual, smoking his cigar, singing the African blessings. And much later in life, I did a ceremony where I kind of reclaimed that history. And so this is a poem. It's in English and in Spanish, starting in Spanish, called Tío Aníbal. And you could imagine a bata 6/8 happening in the background. I'll do a bad imitation of it right now. Tío Aníbal, eres blanco y negro santo, fumando tu tabaco y haciéndome las bendiciones urubá. Me metiste el egua y changó con tus humos y tus cantos, y hoy los celebro, los entretengo, convivo en este ahora con ellos, rumbando por mi ser, como el espiral de tu inspiración y expiración, como tu humo y como los gestos de tu propia biografía. Tío Aníbal, you are a dark and light priest, smoking your cigar and giving me the African blessings. You gave me the Yoruba spirits of Elegua and Chango. They dance through the here and now of my being, like the curl of your cigar smoke and like the gestures of your biography. Yeah, that happened.
Yeah. That was right. That was beautiful, man. Yeah. All right.
So the book is divided into 5 sections. The first section is called New Yorican. Second section is called Rings of Fire, Ice, and Jazz. The third part is called Entanglement. The fourth is Above, Below, In Between. And the last part is called Back to the Beginning. And I'm going to go back into, back into one of the early sections. This is a poem called 8 Million Dreamers Dreaming. Let me see if I could find it real quick for y'all. So this poem, you know, I was born and raised in New York City. Anybody who's lived in New York City or any big city, you know, late at night, turn the lights off, you're in bed, you just want to chill, and you hear a certain sound. It goes like, it's this low roar. It's all those sounds, you know, that are kind of under the ground, the street sounds from far away. It's just this, ooh. And to me, I imagine that as the sound of 8 million dreamers dreaming, which is the name of this poem. Listen to the talk of the city. Listen to the talk of the city. Listen to the talk, listen to the talk. Listen to the sound of 8 million dreamers dreaming. Dreamers dreaming, dreaming in the city. Listen to the talk. How do you say, sit with me under the Brooklyn sky in the 146 dialects of the city? Listen to the sigh and the moan of the neighbor's night play, the hiss of the kneeling bus, The evening news, the endless silent murmur from Greenwood Cemetery, the cash box bell, Mr. Softy's song, the flame-chasing sirens of the FDNY, the blues, the bop, pop, house, merengue y salsa dura. We are the world. Please stand clear of the closing doors. Shuffling cards in a three-point swish. The bark of the dog. But baby, I do love you. Baby, I do love you. The beeps on the EKG. The beeps on the EKG. The beeps on the EKG. And you and me and you and me and you and me and you and me and beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Crowd goes wild! I'm going to ask Steve to come back and join me for this next poem. We're here at beautiful Greenkill Gallery in Kingston, New York. And if you were here, I would suggest you would go look at the bathroom. Because in the bathroom, all four walls, the floor and the ceiling are painted in a phenomenal mural of Dante's Inferno. It's an amazing, who's the name of the artist, David? Gary Mayer. Yeah, amazing work. And this next poem, actually kind of is grounded in the Inferno. Let me just find it real quick and I'll tell you a little more about it. Dante had a muse. His muse was a young woman named Beatrice. He never spoke with her. He admired her from afar in Florence. And the story goes that there's a particular bridge in Florence, and if you go there, you could actually stand at the spot where he saw her from a distance. I think this is actually documented. And this notion of a muse that carries one through. And the last ring of Dante's Inferno is ice, not fire, ice. And who greets him in his book? At the end of it all is Beatrice. So this is my take on Beatrice. I'm going to ask Steve to set it up for us. Beatrice was there at the frozen final ring of the Inferno to calm Dante's heart and feet, so he could take the last steps of his ordeal into the fresh life the hellish journey had made possible. Her beatific smile was nothing more than a tiny upward turn at the corner of her lips. Wide eyes, relaxed shoulders, slow breath, full face forward to greet the world-weary poet. Nothing of the siren he so often conjured, nothing of the innocent that broke his heart with her pale grace. Nothing of the sweat, the moans, the pleading, the quaking voice. Only her full face forward, eyes open, smiling to calm him through this last passage. Tonight it is cold. A February rain drives sideways and noisy against my window. The flag across the way at the town hall is drenched and sagging. A lone car moves slowly down the street. Its headlights beam far into the sleet. Take my hand, cradle my head, hold me against your breast, breathe along with my breath, rock me this night across the barren plains of my longing. Be my Beatrice, be Beatrice, be Beatrice. Yeah, well, the muse. Let's change it up. We all know that families can be difficult. Can somebody say amen? But there's a moment that happens when you start picking your own tribe, right? Like us.
Oh, yeah.
We recognize tribe, and there's not like blood in it, except there's human-made blood. The kind, well, here's a poem called Recipe for Blood. Like wine, it can be made. The ingredients are common, but the effort is such that few take the time, because love is hard work. This blood type is the rarest. It is not born in the marrow, but carefully cultivated from the fruits that grow in the fields of the heart. The recipe calls for time and courage. The simple ingredients must sit together and seep courageously into each other to exchange their flavors and slowly blend their tastes into a new tongue color, the burgundy wine bouquet of human love. Man-made blood flows invisibly through its co-creators, across mountains and oceans. Even the valley of the shadow of death does not damn its determination. This blood type is invincible to all illnesses, except neglect. So be your brother's keeper. Be your sister's keeper. For this wine is the true blood. This blood is the true wine. And when we are drunk with its flavor, we simply stumble upon the smooth, foot-grooved stones that pave the path of wisdom. Anyway, that's what I think. I think I'm going to take a break and invite one of our other poets to come up, and so, and I'll come back. But a little segue, little material from Mr. Beautiful Steve Gorn. Let's give it up for him. Thank you, Steve.
Hey there, I'm Karen Jensen, and I'm reading a few things. This one is called If We Go On, We'll Not Be Back, Same as If We Stay. I kept everything the same. Where some might let themselves flower and seed, they might tease out some tufts and stand stark straight, waiting for the winds of life to carry them off to new horizons, I let my hair settle on this one strange head, hoping for nothing, just being exactly as it is, and I dressed just like myself every day, immune to the tides of fashion. I ensconced myself in the same mysteries that had tugged at my mind when I was small, essentially the unfathomable weirdness of being anything at all. I kept everything the same. I learned a few tricks and I never forgot them. Kept my childhood photo on the desk, and I dressed just like her every day. I surrounded myself with stagnant people who fluttered around their own selves like carnival rides, like little race cars on set tracks. No matter which carnival you visit, fathomless familiarity awaits. People like that surrounded me. I kept everything the same. The clutter in the corner, the big bowl of tiny oranges on the sill. I faced straight into life's eroding winds and wailings, knowing myself to be too excitably evangelical about each minute discovery. I stayed still instead. Let me hold so tight to myself that my lifeblood is crystallized. Let me return to run my hands over its surface so often that it's packed and polished, ready to make a ripple in the world's waters. Still, somehow I changed anyway. Slipped through my own fingers like the color running out of a face when a bump in the night makes her blood run cold. No, not like that. Like, I slipped through my own fingers like changing colors of the sunset on the longest day of summer that, despite its length, does finally end. If we go on, we'll not be back, just the same as if we stay. Little thing. All right, let's see if I can do this one. This one is just goofy, so just have fun with it. And if you can't quite keep up with it, that's okay. That's sort of the point. It's a practice in verbosity, really, and wordplay. See how much I can cram into this thing here. I wrote this for I had a goofy sort of public access show back in the day, some years ago, and so I wrote it as a piece for that, so it was kind of goofy. It's called Big Babies. And there are some tips in here for how to make friends, in case you need them. Big babies. Looking to get in quick with somebody new? Well, shortcuts are almost always short-sighted, but if you must move things along, I can tell you it's pretty easy. All you have to do is figure out which misconceptions are held by your mysterious new mate. Just the main misguiding forces will do. And then, buoy that baloney up. You know, understand them, even if you have to misunderstand everything else to do it. If you help a person pretend their illusions are true, they will let you, no matter your qualifications. They'll keep letting you too, so long as you're playing along. Isn't that the sad fate of so many entanglements? One person wants to play a new game of house with a different set of rules, different set of keys, maybe, different players, locations, orientations, a different conceit, let's say. But yeah, if you concede the conceit someone's alluded to, if you collude with them to conclude their illusions are true, they will let you. That's one sure secret to making friends. It may sound crass, but people need their illusions, as sure as the unformed chick needs his shell. The whole point of his existence is to shatter the thing, but without it, he'd ooze all over the place. To live without illusions, it might seem enlightened, sure, but it's really a dark kind of lonely, an aimless, fluid isolation, like living in deep space, alone, with no hope of ever going home. You see, up there, Untethered from whatever grew you and whatever fooled you, you could look back at our little blue dot with no blinders on. You'd have perspective in spades, but then you'd only have spades in solitaire. Not that solitary is always synonymous with lonely, it's just that a blinder-free existence can be bright enough to actually blind. Up there, yours, while truer than narrower views, is still only one lone little view, and anyway, maybe it's only true to you. For instance, if all a soldier sees are the walls of his own trench in wartime, does the big picture matter to him much, I wonder? Our spaceman is so separate from wartime, even as he surveys its effects splayed out below, delineations and colonizations, the twinkling city lights creeping like a slime mold over our surface. I mean, what is Vancouver to a mind in a vacuum? Science has said something interesting. Life's component parts are incredibly common. They're everywhere. They're scattered in the trenches and in the churches, on the hard rocky planets, and free floating in the vacuum. But in order for life to truly form, cosmically that is, since we're up there, water is required. Not necessarily water, but a liquid, something for life's pieces to puzzle around in and meet each other, a mixer. It's got to loosen and lubricate. Like so many things, we know a lot about the parts. We don't know much about the meeting or the spark. Sound familiar? Point being that in deep space, my tether might tie me to oxygen and disposal of waste, the essentials for maintaining my perspective, but not for expanding it or contracting it. After all, who's to say expansion is superior to contraction? No one who's ever been born, that's for sure. And moreover, no woman who's ever been on the other end of that beginning. Big babies are pains, and so is the big picture. Point being, it's only collectively that we have anything true to say. Sure, at the far reaches, we may have something new to say, but new isn't true in any big picture way, and who's to say what's truly true anyway? That's the problem with big ideas. We're only so big, our heart's only so capable of cold calculation. The soup of collective experience may be the only real truth serum. So, if we, all of us, are ever going to birth anything really like intelligence, maybe there's no such thing as too many cooks, so long as none are stingy with their spices.
Yeah.
All right, I'll get out of here, but I have a tiny little one, which I feel as a little tiny piece of optimism. It's called Unattended. In a world that must have given him no reason at all to trust, someone left his thick sleeping pad and blanket, a nice pillow, shed his jacket for the sunlight there on the sidewalk under the scaffolding. Unattended. All right. Steve, you want to give us a little
Sure, send you
je
off.
ne sais quoi? Yes.
My name is Jacqueline All, and David, thank you very much for having me. We're happy to support you. This is called The House of Privilege. It is 6 p.m., a stand of shadows drawn along walls, the sun, a dim haypenny dropped to the valley floor. There is a ragged gray dog at the door, one eye, blue collar. He is too patient to pant. That is not his brand of eager. All of time is somehow 5 minutes and somehow now in the world of the dog. And yet also somehow all the years it has taken you to see him. You open the door and he slinks in, paws big as a man's hands. You raise the length of chain that came with the house, coiled about the expertly turned leg of the dining table. He is already there with you, expecting the latch that closes around a collar. Your dinner guests watch us from the chair at the side, pausing in the pouring of water to gaze at the gray beast who smells of volcano ash and bilge sporting a single too bright eye. Your dinner guest did not come of her own accord. She has been here since you arrived. You assume she must want to stay. She came with the house, chain and all. You were proud of the things that came with your house, convenient, all you did not have to buy. You only know that when you opened your eyes, there it was, a world that seemed to belong to you by birth, whether accidental or intentional, a gift from the god of finite space. The dog is now on full alert. The guest, whose name you cannot say and so call Jane, is attempting to busy herself, rolling napkins around knives while ignoring the uncleaned feeling of an eye roving her body and marking territory, his scent on every well-turned leg within reach. By 6:30, the dog is circling her chair, its jaws a gin trap etched onto ankles, its saliva staining the Persian rug, untrimmed cant hooks crazing the hardwood floor. By this time, you are almost through dinner, your inbox a tally of groceries for the coming week, easily navigating the space between stove and sideboard and avoiding the jaws, which are inconvenient but not unmanageable for those who know better. Meanwhile, she hasn't rolled half the silverware, is ignoring the pork chops on the plate, taking twice as long to find a comfortable pose, disturbing your sup with screams, a sound that doesn't belong at a dinner table, especially one as nice as this, which you are proud of owning or finding, which are one and the same. You can avoid his jaws. Why can't she? After all, you're both in the same room, your plates match, you share the same silverware, there are napkins freely available, the clock allots you the same time. You can't even see the tether at her ankle. What's more, you don't notice tethers. It's not in your nature. Discussing their presence creates a divide. By this time, you have achieved inbox 0, scraped the plate, noticed the essentials ordered aisle by aisle. By this time, she has stopped screaming and is instead slowly severing one leg below the knee with half a porcelain plate smashed in two on the edge of the table. The gray canine is concentrating all its half-blind fury on a single limb. Worth losing one to escape. You think, the dog is missing a part and gets along in the world, why can't she? The larger the sacrifice, the greater the good. By this time, you have moved on to lacing your sneakers and donning your jogger's jacket with reflective trim. Your foot rests on the bench by the door atop a perfect bow. By this time, she has moved from the chair, crossing the floor in an army crawl, pleading, pathetic. She had the same amount of pork chops, sat at the same table. You are not about to cut your running time, which was paired to a 5-minute mile. If she had been nicer to the dog, he would not have harmed her. Most dogs are content with old bones. By this time, she is slumped in the doorway. The carpet is a Rorschach of red. The dog is waiting on the stoop. The rest of her leg is in his mouth. It is a gift for you. Each day, you talk your way out of owning him. That dog can't be mine. I'm not responsible for what just walks in. Each night, you search for the deed to the house. You suspect there isn't one, but you keep looking. Canned laughter cracks the floorboards. A storm. A tree falls across the driveway, large enough to crush a man. It is a line drawn. Tonight, before losing consciousness, she decides it's time. The tree offers its body for a cause, leaning toward a lit match. It's time to set this house on fire. Thank you.
Just damn. Thank you, Steve. So there's someone really special in the audience tonight. My mom. Hey, Mom. And I don't know if you remember this, but many years ago, so my mom was a single mother. We lived in the Bronx. She worked very, very hard. And she always had a creative wish to make stuff. Finally, when she retired, she made a ton of stuff, but it was hard when she was working and raising my brother and I. But there was this moment where she did something extraordinary. And I look back at that moment as a turning point in my own life when possibility arose out of nothing. This is called Wall Mural, and it's for you, Mother. I remember when you painted the living room wall in our Bronx apartment. You gave it a coat of white, then worked for a week to paint a Greco-Roman coastal scene, complete with clouds, cliffs, and broken columns, an illusion of the infinite sea, and beyond the scene, our blank wall remained, now transformed from an opaque void into a vista that invited voyage. Just like that, the flat wall burst open to the horizon. Grandma was cooking in the kitchen. The kids were running every which way. Bills had to be paid. The old VW had an oil leak. And you, with a bristle, brush, and paint, standing on a stepladder, reaching way up to add an extra splash of gold to the setting sun.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Mama. Love you.
Yeah.
Did you say mm?
I said,
You said mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just need a couple more. You know, we're prone to looking for magic, are we not? We're prone to look for magic. Or we're prone to notice when things are inspirational or enchanting. It's just like, oh, what? That's different. Like, oh, that's strange. That color, that shade, that moment. What is that? We're looking for things that just crack open the mundane world. And so here's one of those moments for me. Starfish. Let's read a couple more, then we'll be done. All right, I'll stretch it out. If I could give you one of those shaker things that just makes sand like rain sounds. Yeah. Or waves, yeah. Just imagine like waves and All right, here we go. Starfish. White sand, an underwater desert of rolling dunes, contours, hips, topography, body form at the bottom of the sea, shafts of gold light, flitting, shifting, dropping, a holographic curtain of falling gold, light blades cutting through the salt water, floating on the surface in 30 feet of clear Caribbean water, swimming out to the island reef, tasting the sea, eyes open to all this. A star goldfish, pardon me, a gold starfish. A gold starfish, big as a dinner plate on the white sand. Shafts of light, Then another one and another, 6, 8, dozens of stars, shafts of light, white sand, another and another, suspended between the golden undersea galaxy below and the celestial one above, one of 5-fingered creatures, one of boiling suns, the human mind in between, eyes open to all this. Yes. Oh, people in the online world, you can't see the 10,000 people with like little lighters in the audience. But, right, Steve? Man, they're just it's blinding, man. It's like fireflies out there. Yeah. Cell phones, that's what it is. I think I'll just end with a final one, and I'll ask Steve to play with me on this one.
Okay.
And this one, Steve is just a brilliant improviser, but I'm going to give you just a couple of words to feel into it. Also, I want to say a thank you to Dane Johnson, who offered to play or loan some of his sounds tonight. But when Steve agreed to do the gig last minute, I bet, we have you. But thank you, Dane. Appreciate that. This space is one of reverence, discovery. Reverence and discovery.
Reverence and discovery.
Yeah, go with that.
Ah.
Steve Gorn on the soprano sax. The Rose of Mercy. Theo Victor, wrapped in the cloak of senility, inching toward the oblivion, disturbing the bed sheets in a riverside home, wide-eyed and asleep. Dreaming in grimaces and fists, he arranges the affairs of his soul between the quiet shores of forgetting and the tempests of his midnight rage. The nurses in attendance tolerate his ranting. They calm him with cold compresses, warm hands, the knowing voices of tenderness. They are the angels singing him to the gate. At his bedside table, holding his gnarled fingers in the palm of my hand, I hum, Old Man River, that old man river, he just keeps rolling, just keeps on rolling, that old man river, he just keeps rolling along. This was the lifelong anthem with which he prepared himself for these very days. Watching Theo Victor sleep slack-jawed, the gaping hole, the heaving breath, the leaving, the holding on. Then, boom, he sits up, points to me to get my pen, paper on the dresser, write. Cultivo, I write, cultivo. Rosa, rosa. Blanca, blanca. Words random fragments. I write them, these sea leavings washed up from the depths of his unconscious mind. Cultivo la rosa blanca. La rosa blanca, cultivo la rosa blanca en junio como en enero. What is this writing? His gaze is upon me, ancient eyes suddenly sharpened, struggling, drawing the words up slowly from the deep, near, dry well of his imagination. Para el amigo sincero, word by word, phrase by phrase, repeating line by line over and over. Cultivo la rosa blanca en junio como en enero para el amigo sincero que me da su mano franca y para el cruel que me arranca el corazón con que vivo. Cardos ni espinas cultivo. Cultivo la rosa blanca. When he was done, when he knew I had it all down right, Tío Victor closed his eyes, shifted to the side, and fell asleep. I went home that night to set his sonnet to music, unaware that La Rosa Blanca was Cuban poet José Martí's most famous lyric. Breathing into Tío Victor's final gift to me, the everlasting perfume of a rose whose essence is mercy, whose scent remains. Cultivo la rosa blanca en junio, en enero, para el amigo sincero que me da su mano franca. I grow the white rose in summer and in winter, for the true friends who offer their hands, and for those who would tear out my beating heart. Neither thorns nor thistles do I grow. I only grow the white rose. Thank you. Steve Gorn, baby. Take us out. Take us out. Steve. Jeff and all. Karen Jensen. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Thank you.